Hi everyone, this is Matthew Kenslow, author to Juggling the Issues and Living with Asperger's Syndrome, and I decided to make a video in which I will reflect on a story that happened 10 years and 1 day ago. And yes, I'm kicking myself for not doing it on the 10-year anniversary, for that would be more closure for me. And so I was avoiding this story for a decade, but I think I better reveal it, especially since it's going to talk about a trait about autistic people. And if people fully understood about autism and recognized us for who we are, this probably wouldn't have happened. I'm not saying that anyone else did anything bad, it's just I had like a space out or meltdown in my brain. And here's the story. So I was taking emergency medical responder in the summer of 2012. It's an RLP class, I mentioned it in my book, and I was nominated for Distinguished Student of the Year. But anyway, this was like 2 days before the finals. The finals was on the 19th of July. This is the 17th of July. So our instructor was really preparing us for practicals and the final and everything, and he had us practice, and he came up with a scenario, and he would choose a random student or ask for a volunteer to treat him according to what he said he had, like some injury or illness. And so I volunteered because I thought he was going to have me go through all the medical-based trauma, and that's where you have like this huge like protocol, starting with BSI, scene safety, the mechanism of injury or nature of illness, number of patients. I had all that memorized, and that's what the student before me did. So I volunteered, and he said, okay, go outside. So I waited outside, and after a wait, a student came out saying, okay, he's ready. So I go inside the classroom. It's as silent as a doornail or whatever. You could hear a pin drop on the other side of the room. I think that's the expression. And my instructor's scenario is that he has major bleeding in his arm. And that was completely a different protocol than I was preparing in my mind, and it completely threw me off. And when that happens to a person with autism, when we prepare for something and then at the last minute it is completely awry, it's just completely different, it really throws us off, and it really causes us to have a meltdown, to space out and everything in our mind. And they can't always understand that when that happens. And so back in the day, the protocol was direct pressure, elevate, pressure point, and tourniquet. And it's like I knew that, but my brain was spacing out, and my instructor had to help me. And like a good medical instructor, he's throwing out all these hypotheticals and have me define terms like what is shock, and it's like, do you want me to explain it? Because I could explain the protocol, the flowchart that I memorized for Royal Rangers, and it was a lot, and I was spacing out because I didn't know how to concisely say that in a sentence or two. And he said, it's 3 words. I'm like, what? It's 3 words? And he said, inadequate tissue perfusion. So he said, say that 5 times fast. So I said, inadequate tissue perfusion in front of the entire class 5 times fast. And let me tell you, I never forgot it. And when I teach about shock at Royal Rangers, that's how I define it. But then, of course, I expound on what that means, but I never forgot it because of that moment. However, within the next few minutes, he was really pressuring me on what to do next, and rightfully so, because in real medical emergencies where you're bleeding from the extremity, it's probably going to be very grueling. And nowadays I know what to do, but at the same exact time my instructor was very cool, calm, and collected, I guess the expression is, just explaining, and he helped me out a couple of times on what's the next protocol. So it's direct pressure, elevate, pressure point, and then tourniquet at last resort. And so I was doing everything that the instructor was telling me, and when I got to like pressure point, he's like, are you feeling my biceps, man, or something like that? And it's like, no, this is pressure point. You do direct pressure, elevate, then pressure point. And he's like, you're supposed to squeeze harder. And I'm like, I don't want to hurt you. And he said, I don't care, it doesn't matter, just squeeze harder. And so I did. And after minutes of pure chaos in my brain, I collapsed. And I just had to take a break from reality, and I didn't care who was around. I literally collapsed on the ground, and it made a hard thud, and I heard a couple of gasps, and my instructor is like, are you all right? And I opened my eyes, and I'm like, yeah. And my instructor's like, get up. And so I get up feeling a bit lightheaded, and the instructor asks me if I'm alright, and it's like, I'm not sure. And the instructor starts to get more stern, like, really? Tell me the truth, or are you alright? And I'm like, yeah, I'm alright. And I said that because I knew that my instructor was in the medical field, and I didn't want to be admitted to some hospital or something. I was sure I was alright. I just had to space out a little bit. I must have felt dizzy because I got up too fast, and then, you know, feeling my heart beating so fast as if it's going to fly out of my chest, and all that sensation because of what was going on and the sensory overload and everything. At that point, he kindly yet sternly informed me that he knew that I was faking because he saw my eyes move or something like that, even though it was a meltdown. And then that's when he started to yell at me and give me a lecture and such, and had me apologize in front of the entire class because he thought that I was faking. And even after everything was said and done, when I was back in my seat, he still couldn't let me hear the end of it. And he said, you know, you just scared the blank out of everybody. And people were like, yeah, you did. And it's like, I'm autistic, I have a meltdown. And I had to space out from reality, I had to just collapse. And if you want to have a little simulation, try understanding every word that I'm saying. I'm not sure if you can or not because of the traffic. And if it's hard to hear, then that's like my brain trying to listen to my instructor when my mind was prepared for me to do this protocol, but he literally changed it at the last minute to that protocol, which is something that anybody in the medical field needs to know how to do. And that's probably why I can't be an emergency medicine doctor or nurse or anybody like that. And even though I admit that I scared the entire class, it was because of autism, and that really traumatized me because I felt very crushed inside of it. I felt very, very hurt inside because of this. And I felt that way because it's like nobody just understood that I have autism and what was really going on. And that's why I was so silent about the story for 10 years, but I'm like, who am I trying to protect? Am I trying to protect myself, or do I want to educate the ignorant world about us and encourage people who are neurodivergent like I am? And I thought I want to help the world, so I decided to put this in my Autism Awareness and Acceptance playlist and see where it goes. And it didn't just stop on June 17th. The next day was the penultimate day before the finals, and there were more practice and everything. And my instructor's like, who's very good at acting, who wants to volunteer and pretend to be a distraught parent and such. And I raised my hand, and he's like, we saw your act yesterday. And the entire class started laughing. And I look at my neighbor, I'm saying, what is he talking about? And I knew what he was talking about, but I was still upset that he was teasing me about it. And it's like, I wasn't really vocal as much as I am now about autism and people needing to just understand and be aware of the symptoms that we face. And this was my symptom. Whenever anything just doesn't go as planned, my mind literally just spaces out and literally collapses, and I just needed a second to literally like fall on the ground and just cool off for a little bit. But there were really no hard feelings, and again, the instructor and lots of the classmates were very nice. And I really enjoyed the class. In fact, it inspired me to take anatomy in 12th grade, and I literally added it at the last minute. And that was the class where I had to drop trigonometry pre-calc just to keep anatomy. And I didn't want to drop trigonometry and pre-calculus, but I had no choice. I had to drop one or the other, and I chose anatomy.